How I would make the DC Cinematic Universe Phase 10, Part 1. This is the last phase. So to start off the phase, we're going to get another Earth story. This will be, I'm just penciling in Earth 11, just because. So this is where Clark Kent was actually found by the Waynes. So Bruce and Clark are brothers. They were both there when their parents were shot. They both grow up to be Superman and Batman. They both operate out of Gotham for a while and fight alongside of each other. It's just a really cool story. This was I think it's part of DC's like what if stories. I don't remember what they're calling it right now, but it's a really cool concept and I love it, and it would make for a pretty cool movie. Although we'd probably have to hire different actors than the ones that had been playing Superman and Batman this whole time, because we'd need a young Clark and Bruce, but that's okay. Then we'll get a Devastator origin story. Super cool. I definitely recommend you checking him out if you don't know about him. He's really cool. Then we'll get a Red Hood and the Outlaws Reunite movie. Reunion. The villain here I think is going to be Lobo. We haven't seen Lobo for a while, so it'd be cool to bring him back into the fold. Then we'll get a new Orange Lantern movie. Someone who's going to replace Larfleeze and then go on some pretty cool mission. Now, admittedly, I don't know that this would warrant a full movie, but I think we could write a really cool movie about this concept. And besides, we've, going like 35 years straight of like banger after banger. We're allowed one kind of, was this movie really necessary? Every once in a while. Then we'll get a White Lantern Corps movie, now that there is a White Lantern Corps and not just Kyle Rayner. I'm thinking the villain here would be Perpetua. How I would make the DC Cinematic Universe Phase 10 Part 2. Alright, so next we're going to get a Green Lantern Corps Aftermath movie. This will, introduce Jessica Cruz. She, alongside Simon Baz, are going to be Earth's Green Lanterns. Because with the destruction of Oa and the destruction of the Guardians of the Universe, Hal, John, and Guy all have to take much larger roles within the Green Lantern Corps. Basically all leadership roles, especially John and Hal. Along with like Kilowatt and some other Green Lanterns that survived that we have seen throughout these years. But a lot, millions of Green Lanterns lost their life during the Ultimate Lantern Sinestro fight. So this really is kind of a reconstruction and a rebuild of the Green Lantern Corps. After that, we'll have an Injustice 3 movie. This will probably be the events of Injustice 2 video game. In the second Injustice movie will probably be the events of the first Injustice video game. The first one will be like the comics leading up to the video games. Then we will get a new Aquaman movie with Jackson Hyde becoming Aquaman. Then another Wally West wacky adventure. In the last phase we had Wally go to Apocalypse for some reason that I haven't come up with yet and fight Darkseid. Here he's being challenged by Brainiac on a neutral world, and he has to fight off Brainiac and his challenge that he's giving Wally West. This will probably be a different Brainiac, maybe even Brainiac like 2.0, because we'll have Brainiac 5 in the Legion of Superheroes movie and show, so this might be like Brainiac 2 or something. Then we'll get an Earth 12 movie where Oliver Queen Green Arrow still has all his Green Arrow tricks and skill, but he's also a Green Lantern. I think it's just a really cool concept. And it was not my original concept, so I really appreciate you. Then we'll get a new Batman movie where Damian Wayne steps up and becomes Batman. And in this, I think the villain should be the Joker's daughter, which is not actually the Joker's daughter, but she's a psychopath who puts on that persona. She has also in the comics pretended to be Harvey Dent's daughter. I think even the Riddler's daughter, so It would make for a really cool villain, though. How I would make the DC Cinematic Universe Phase 10 Part 3. Alright, so for the next movie of this phase, we're going to get a Teen Titans movie. This will be the last Teen Titans movie. And this will be without Damian, at where he's now Batman. And in fact, this is going to be without a Robin at all, for the first time ever. The team would consist of several members from the Young Justice TV show that again had been airing through this whole time, plus members from the previous Teen Titans show where Damian led the team. I don't know who the villain here would be yet, but I think it'd be a really cool concept to find or to see who would step up and become the leader. Because before, Damian pretty much was the leader, 100%. Then we're going to get a Red Robin movie. This time I think I don't want to use a villain. I want him to... This movie would focus mainly on the detective skill, the detective aspect of Tim Drake. Because at this point he would be, you know, without Bruce Wayne on the planet, he is the greatest detective in the world. So I think his movie should reflect that and have those themes. So in this scenario, he is in Europe and he's tracking down this like serial killer team. And it's just a solo mission where he's trying to pick up all these clues and stuff. It'd be a different movie than what we're used to with the superhero movies in this series. But I think you need different movies to break up the monotony. And I think this would just be really, really cool. And probably a little creepy, but that's okay. Then we'll get a Superman movie. This time, John becoming Superman. And Connor passing down the mantle, even though he hasn't been Superman very long. He's given it to John because it's John's time. It's John's mantle to take, where Connor will then take on a new title, so, or a previous one that he was using that's not Superboy. Then we'll get an Icon 3 movie. Then we will get a Raven solo movie where she finally has to reface Trigon, which is her dad, but you guys knew that. And she wins. She defeats Trigon, she probably kills Trigon, and eliminates that threat forever. Then following that, we'll get a Cyborg 3 movie. Villain here I'm thinking would be Kilgore. Cyborg's trilogy has really been like really far spread out, not back-to-back phases like a lot of these, but he's a character that's been here since phase 2 and he's very consistent, so makes sense. Then we'll get a Beast Boy 2 movie. This time it's a team up with Cyborg and Raven. Finally, we'll get a Legion of Superheroes 2 where this time they're all grown up. Just one more part, one more movie. How I would make the DC Cinematic Universe Phase 10 Part 4. Now this is the finale, the final movie to wrap up this whole cinematic universe. It's probably spanned like 40 years or something by now. So really an end to an era, 100%. Obviously this will be Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it will go a little differently than in the comics because different characters have been the main focus now for years as opposed to who the main characters were in the comics leading up to this in the 80s. The Anti-Monitor is definitely still the main villain here, obviously. And literally everyone alive will be in this fight one way or the other. Whether it's an alternate Earth that got destroyed, or an alternate Earth's, group of heroes that come and help in the fight, help our Earth 1 heroes in the fight. And we've been leading up to this for a while because that's why we've introduced so many Earths and so many origin stories for different characters on those Earths. Some of them will have bigger focuses, but none will have, as big of a spotlight in this movie as our Earth 1 heroes. In the comics, Supergirl and Barry Allen's deaths were very impactful and a very big deal. The difference here will be Supergirl she's already dead. So someone else will have to fill that role, maybe multiple people. Barry Allen will still probably die in this one though, since he's back, but this time he'll die again. And I'm thinking the story kind of mainly follows Wally West, because he is probably by far our strongest hero. So much like following Superman in the comics, it'll be more so following Wally West. because he's basically a god. Now, if I'm being honest, this probably wouldn't be one movie. This would be similar to like Infinity War and Endgame, where it would have to be at least 2 movies. Maybe even just a trilogy of itself. But yeah, if you know anything about Crisis on Infinite Earths, it's the same concept, just replace some heroes here and there.